In Buddhism, there's two things: emptiness and compassion. Compassion is a choice. You choose to be loving. You choose that. But emptiness is something different. Emptiness is basically seeing the world the way that it really is. It's not being subject to delusion, or at least knowing when you're subject to delusion. The Lama said that a fool that knows he's a fool is only half a fool. The fundamentals of quantum mechanics, the absolute basis of it, is what it's, they say, when things are indistinguishable. You know, a photon or electron not having inherent existence radically changes the way it behaves. If something can happen in two different ways, if they're not distinguishable, you get interference, and all these bizarre things that happen in quantum mechanics are when things are indistinguishable. You know, in Buddhism, it's the same thing. No, oh, we're all enlightened, we're all, you know, we're perfect the way they are. But on the other hand, in reality, the way we act like we're not. And in essence, it's the same thing. It's because we're totally entangled with our environment. The reason that our everyday world is classical is that basically everything becomes distinguishable because of the light. Everything is being entangled with its environment constantly. You know, so it appears to have inherent existence. It acts as if it has inherent existence. Everything that's a deep conception of reality is in terms of two things that are the opposites, that are mutually contradictory. You know, the wave and particle. You know, here's you're an enlightened person, and here you're this entangled, trapped in samara. You know, they're two opposite views. They contradict each other. But you need both of them to describe reality. And that's the Copenhagen Convention. And the fact that you want to grab one or the other and say they contradict each other, that's, you know, that's not being alive. Because that's not the way the world really is. That's what that's what the discovery of quantum mechanics says. Is that a deep reality can't be described that way. About 600 BC, Buddha said, let's try to understand the world by seeing the simplest possible thing we can do, which is to do nothing. So that's meditation. We do nothing and we look. At the same time, in Greece, they said, what's the simplest thing we can think about? And that's if things are logically consistent. As long as we stay within logical consistency, we can actually come with a conclusion. We won't just talk at each other for a lifetime. And so these traditions, starting with Pythagoras and through Euclid, have led to Western science, and Buddhism has continued in that way. So what's the core belief system, the core concept in Buddhism is called sunyata, or emptiness, which has different definitions, but two of them are that things don't exist in the way they seem to exist. They seem to be one thing, but actually there's something else. So that's this vast philosophical system. They also call that seeing reality as it actually is. So you go out in the evening and you watch the sunset. You don't go out in the evening and watch the earth rotate. Even though we've known this for 500 years, we still don't see it. So that's an example of something that's existing as something different than it seems to. It seems to be the sun moving, but actually it's the earth rotating, right? So even deeper thing that science has, which was totally incomprehensible to people, but since the movie The Matrix, now people understand, is that this world out here isn't the external world. It's not. It's a representation in our mind. There's nothing out there that corresponds to what you see. There are no colors outside of the human mind or outside some mind. What is this model? This model is that there's this three-dimensional space, and there are objects in the space, and at any particular moment, an object is in a particular space. And in another moment, like 3 seconds later, maybe it's in another space. And that has two properties. One is that if this was here, and it moves here, it has to move through a continuous path, a smooth path to get there. And the other one is that two objects can't be in the same place at the same time. So that's the model that we're immersed in. We see as external reality, even though it's part of our mind. But the thing is that was built up by evolution. It was built up so that our ancestors could survive and reproduce, and for no other reason at all. It's inherently, what we're actually seeing out there is the wisdom of our ancestors, much more than any kind of external world, right? But the thing is all of our ancestors were basically about this size. I mean, 50 million years ago they might have been real tiny, but none of them were ever the size of an atom or a subatomic particle. So this model that we've built up by evolution, because it worked for the last few 100 million years, there's no reason whatsoever, no a priori reason why it should work at the size of an atom. And of course, it wouldn't make any difference if the smallest thing you could see was about 1/10 of a millimeter. But now that we can actually manipulate things at the level of an atom, we find out that it simply doesn't work.